Good evening, everyone. I am Council President Mally Rosado. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I am reconvening this meeting of the Court of Common Council. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Yes, Madam President. Councilwoman Bermudez.
Here.
Councilman Clark.
Here.
Councilman Gale.
Here.
Councilman LeBron. Councilman LeBron. Councilman Mitchum. Councilman Mitchum. Councilwoman Rosado.
Here.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Here.
Councilman Sanchez.
Present.
Councilman Surgeon.
Here.
You have a quorum. Well, let me just go through all of Councilman Mitchum. I see him there. Councilman LeBron. I see him. Okay. You have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And now our town clerk will lead us into the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk. At this time, we will not recess and reconvene again shortly. Everyone.
Madam President, I didn't hear you.
I apologize. At this time, we will recess and reconvene again shortly. So we are now recessing our council meeting.
Madam President, will we be signing back on with this same WebEx?
Once we are ready to come back on live, a new invite will be sent out with a WebEx link.
Thank you very much.
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll
Thank
see you all very shortly. Bye-bye. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being patient this evening. I know it's been a long time since we recessed. I want to thank the public and everyone for your patience. I am Council President Mally Rosado, and I am calling to order the reconvening of this council meeting. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll? I apologize. It seems like our town clerk stepped away from his desk for a minute. If everyone could bear with us, it's been a long night. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, if you could please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Present.
Councilman Clark.
Present.
Councilman Gale. Councilman Gale. Councilman LeBron.
Present.
Councilman Mitchum.
Present.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Present.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Here.
Councilman Sanchez.
Present.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Here.
Councilman Gale.
We can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Councilman Gale, we can't hear you.
Councilman Gale.
If you want, Councilman Gill, you can log off and log back on. I was able to hear you before.
How about now?
Yes.
Councilman Gale, you're here.
Thank you.
Madam President, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
I can't hear you, though.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I would like to make the motion that we debate on financial resolution number 1, which is financial resolution DIMS 1. Resolve that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $260,000 from the general fund under the pay outside agencies and other programs contingency, row 1674, line item 822006, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $210,000 from the general fund under the legal services operation program litigation, row 1702, line item 822009. Be further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $25,000 to Health and Human Services to be allocated to the North End Senior Center, row 1519, line item 520017, and or 510101 for operational support. And be further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $25,000 to the Health and Human Services Department to be allocated to the South End Wellness Center, 1519, line item 520017, and or 510101 for operational support. And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect increase of $50,000 to the Hartford Police Department's Pell Program, row 724, line item 2120034, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $30,000 for the continued operation of the Hartford Deportation Fund to be allocated to the Health and Human Services Department, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $50,000 to the CIP line item 271 for the Hartford Decides program, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $60,000 to the Hartford City Council, row 47, line item 112001 for civic engagement and cultural affairs, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $75,000 to the Hartford City Council, row 47, line item 112001 for the Charter Revision Commission, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for the fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $5,000 to the Department of Public Works, DPW, for a one-time yearly stipend for the purpose of DPW mechanics maintenance of personal tools and equipment, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $150,000 to the town clerk's office, deputy town clerk, row 72, line item 117001.
I second the motion.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Councilman Mixtum?
Yeah, give me 1 sec. I'm sorry. I'm having a slight technical difficulty here with my telephone. No, I'm good. I'm getting there. Oh, Jesus Christ. It's been a long day. I'm sorry.
It's okay, take your time.
Okay. not so much a discussion, but I would move that we, I don't know if the word is recess, because we have made the Working Families members a number of proposals, and we presented those to the majority. We also discussed with the majority parts of their proposals we thought we might support, and parts that we wanted to talk about. And the majority said to us, okay, let us confer. And then we waited a number of hours, and then the majority said, okay, we're going live, we're going to vote. It would be nice to know, because some of our proposals overlap. Some of them put money forward for the same things or take money from the same sources. It would be good to know how the majority intends to vote and whether there's any agreement. But instead, we're in this position where we enter blind into this process. So I would move that we recess briefly so that we can confer.
Councilwoman Bermudez,
I'd like to second that motion.
Councilman Sanchez,
There was no motion on the floor at the moment.
I would say point of order, Madam President, Councilman Mitchum's move should be considered as a motion, but I would, through you, Madam President, defer to Corporation Counsel Rifkin.
Attorney Rifkin, are you on the screen with us?
I am here, Madam President. So I think a motion to recess that Councilman Mictum made is in order and could be voted on.
Councilman Mixtum,
Just to clarify, a brief recess. We've all been here at this a long time. I just want a little bit to talk.
a motion has been made and properly second. Are there any other discussions? The discussion, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes. I'm not hearing you.
Yes.
You are on a brief mute.
Okay. Councilman Clark,
Pass.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Can't hear.
Councilman,
Yes. Brief recess.
Councilman Mitchum, Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Pass.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Can't hear you.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Wait a minute. Yes.
motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I am now calling this council meeting for a brief recess. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Once again, I'm Council President Mally Rosado, and I'm calling this meeting to order to reconvene this council meeting. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Bermudez, Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yep, here.
Councilman LeBron,
Present.
Councilman Mitchum,
Here.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Present.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Here.
Councilman Sanchez,
Present.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Yes, Madam President, I believe we are still in the debate phase for financial resolution, DIMS number 1. A vote has not been taken yet for resolution number 1.
Councilman Mixtum,
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to offer a friendly amendment to resolution number 1. Specifically, I would add a resolve to decrease the capital improvement projects budget. That's line 591047, Pago Capex Reserve. Decrease that by $70,000 and increase the allocation to the Families Facing Deportation Fund by $70,000 so that the total allocation for the Families Facing Deportation Fund would be $100,000. And if I could, I'd like to speak briefly on why. The city of Hartford had this fund last year. It was $30,000. It was administered by the library, and it helped families here in Hartford who are facing deportation. It's just that. In other words, if a family member is detained and has legal fees, or if the family members who aren't detained need groceries or housing, this was a fund that could help people out and get them through a difficult time. It was really successful, helped a lot of people. Now, this year, we have an assurance from the Vera Institute for Justice that they have a special grant program where if a municipality has a fund like this that has at least $100,000, they will match the $100,000. So we would, by adding the $70,000 that I'm proposing here, we get in essence 100 or another 100,000. We spend 100,000, but we get another 100, and all of that would be for undocumented families in our area who are just facing all of the difficulties of the unjust federal immigration system. So it's a pretty straightforward investment in our people. It's an investment because we get extra money from a grant. And I will say that we're seeking to take it from the Capital Improvement Project Fund because we did have some contact with state legislators who felt confident that the state, through bonding, would be able to replace this money. So in fact, that would be like free money for the city as well.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes, 3 things. So the first thing is Councilman Mishlam, where is that reduction coming from out of what we just discussed?
Capital improvement.
But that's not what we didn't discuss the capital improvement. We discussed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. None of those are capital improvement. Are you requesting to add another resolve?
Through you, Madam President, yes, I am.
And secondly, is there assurances? I read the language, and I'm not a lawyer, and I don't want to pretend to be, but in the language of what you sent over regarding the matching of funds, is that 100% guaranteed matched? What is,
Yes. Yes,
I mean, legally,
Defer to
like,
Councilwoman Bermudez.
correct. That is correct.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Question. So as someone who deals with grants all the time, do we have a letter documenting this match is verified, certifiable? And then we'll get to the bonding piece afterwards. Is there something that absolutely says that?
Yes. You all
Could we-
received it through your inbox.
When did we receive that, Councilwoman?
We sent it it was sent to you a few weeks ago from the Vera Institute.
Well, I would need to see that if it was sent a few weeks ago.
Councilman Gale,
No. Sorry.
I think
Councilman Mixtum,
I believe we're pulling it up right now to resend it. But I would say, and I do intend to have us send this along to, okay, one of our aides just sent it. So those of you who are in front of your computer, which I suppose is all of you, you can get a look at it.
So for clarification purposes, this letter from the Vera Institute, does it specifically state that the money should come from a municipality or could it come from a nonprofit?
That's correct. It has to specifically come from a municipality. We've been in direct communications with the Vera Institute since we implemented these funds back last year.
Councilman LeBron?
Yeah, on the top, is this the most recent one? It says January 17th, 2019. This is over a year and 4 months old.
If the body of the email, they'll point out that they're using the letter from last year, but they're changing it.
Councilwoman Rossetti?
I mean, I'm just glancing at it quickly and it says up to $100,000 and we still have to apply for it. So to me, there's no guarantee there.
Been in direct communication with the Vera Institute.
Again, I understand what you're saying, Councilwoman, but as someone who deals with grants every day of my life, it says up to $100,000. I don't see the guarantee there.
It's in the email.
Councilman Mixtum?
I think the email makes clear that in fact it is basically guaranteed, but I would add what we're talking about here is an appropriation of $70,000 to help families who are facing an incredibly terrible ordeal that affects spouses, children, extended families. So I do feel confident that we can get the matching grant, but it's not as though.
Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Why? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
It's not as though we're just throwing money away. We're putting money toward a very good and worthy cause that helps residents of the city, and one that in fact we noticed in the last year when it was just 30,000 that there was much more need. So even in the worst case scenario, which I think if you look at this email is very remote, all we're doing is more good for more people here for what is a very small portion of our budget.
And I understand what you're saying, but for a quick reference, so when you say that to do more for the people, just for, again, clarification purposes, will this organization receive money from the $2.5 million that Governor Lamont allocated?
This is not, the FFDF fund is not an organization. The FFDF fund it's part of city funds that we allocated last year in the health department.
I stand correct. So do you guys get more funding from, do the undocumented get more funding from other organizations?
The amount that Governor Lamont proposed is because we have over 170,000 immigrants in the state of Connecticut. It's the equivalent of, if you were to divide that up, people receiving $17 each. So if for those who have been following the news on this particular item, those advocates that work with the undocumented population, undocumented immigrants, have been saying and driving home the message fiercely that the amounts that were appropriated at the state level are not enough.
Okay.
And so here we have this prime opportunity as a municipality through the Vera Fund to receive matching funds.
Can I ask another question through you, Madam Chair?
Absolutely.
So with these funds, again, this is my, I'm trying to understand the Families for Deportation Fund. Is there staffing? Does this pay for staffing? Is there someone that's a staff assigned to this?
The Hartford Public Library.
and the staffing there, do they do, and let me just get to the point, do they do any collaboration or seek out any collaboration with community-based organizations?
Absolutely.
Okay,
And
so,
that's why we've received a bunch of different emails from community partners such as the West Indian Social Club, who are in 100% support of the FFDF fund, and many others among them. Korea is another one.
right. So I just want to make a point of clarification that in my work across the state with nonprofit organizations, I know plenty of community-based organizations that help undocumented citizens. And I'd like to go on record that last year I reached out to many folks, including council members here, to try to help families with various grants and wasn't replied to. I had grants worth of $30,000 last year before I was on council, and no one ever reached out to me. I, in turn, had to go to use those basic needs to folks in the community and seek them out myself. I reached out multiple times. This year, I reached out with grants over $100,000 to help undocumented families. Have yet to heard anything to help families with basic needs, with rent, with utilities, particularly in these times under these pandemics where they need Wi-Fi, which is vital to their lives. And so I have been reaching out and I haven't heard anything. So I'm just curious to see the staffing or what have you that reaches out to community-based organizations, because I've been trying.
And may I piggyback on what Councilman LeBron said? I reached out also when the city of Hartford had breakfast and lunches, and we didn't get a response back.
What are you, in reference to breakfast and lunches, I'm not sure I follow that.
So one of the insurance companies did not want to lay off some of their employees. So what they did was they donated breakfast and lunch bags to the city of Hartford. And I reached out and I never got a reply back to take the donation of the food. So I just wanted to make that.
The FFDF fund comes from the city of Hartford, and it is housed in the health
This
department.
doesn't have to do with the fund. This has to do with providing food for the undocumented people. Councilwoman Rossetti?
And again, you know, and please do not take any of my comments or questions as something that I don't know that this is valuable and important. But again, as someone who does this for a living, this email is not, and I'm concerned that we will do this as someone who deals with grants every day without written documentation of a firm commitment. That's my final comment.
Councilman Mixtum?
I think the trouble, and I understand Councilwoman Rossetti's concern, and that's fair, and I think it's true that in some sense we can't get 100% guarantee because on the side of the grantor, they want 100% guarantee that we will appropriate the funds, which we also can't give them. But we're talking about, as Councilwoman Rossetti pointed out, work that is good and valuable. And to answer a little bit to Council President Rosado's question about some of the other services that are available to undocumented families, there are a handful of things. There's the Undocumented, which is private and just getting started. There's the governor's 2.5 million, which is statewide and limited. But the thing we have to recognize here is that the need far outstrips that. And also, these are families who don't have access to any of the other resources that families who have their papers can get. So, you know, they're not getting TANF, they're not getting, you know, the stimulus payment that came from the feds, they're not getting food stamps, any of that stuff. Right? Basically, I mean, their kids might get Husky, but they can't get Husky. I mean, these are folks who are really on their own. And what we're trying to do is provide a little bit of stability to the ones who are in the greatest crisis, when one member of the family is usually in immigration detention and they have all these costs rising on them, just to keep them in their homes, to keep the kids in schools. So $100,000, even if the grant didn't come through, seems like a pittance to do that good.
Councilwoman Rossetti?
Is there a way to do this, whereas if the grant doesn't come through, we rescind it?
We asked Howard that question.
Howard?
I mean, you can make the through you, Madam President, you can make the allocation contingent on that, sure.
Howard, I just didn't hear that.
I'm sorry. So you could make the authorization to spend $100,000 contingent on getting the grant?
And what would happen through you, Madam President? What would happen if we didn't get the grant? Where would that money go?
So before we get to that question, I have another question. So the only criteria on this grant is that the funding goes to 100,000? There's no other criterias?
It has to be from a municipality. Cannot
Right,
be
so
from a
there's no-
nonprofit.
that's
It
the
can't
only
be from a
criteria.
for-profit.
That's the only criteria on this grant?
No, there's other criteria. I'm looking at the thing right here.
Okay.
There's criteria. There's at least 10 bullet points.
It also has to cover representation as well, as one of the bullet points on there, which is something that the fund currently covers as well.
But there is clear criteria. It's right here.
Council President, through you.
Councilman LeBron, go ahead, please.
So just going back, I'm not sure if my question was answered in terms of, because one of the things that you said, Councilman Mixtum, if, you know, that the children get Husky and they don't qualify for TANF, that is in fact false with the Department of Social Services. So the point I'm trying to make is that, you know, I personally am understanding and wanting to help this population. And so my curiosity is to, folks have been reaching out to me, not just through myself, but in the sums of over hundreds of thousands, close to $200,000 to try to help these families. And we're getting silent answers. And so the point I'm trying to make is, with a financially strapped city who has multiple causes, and again, I work with this population every day. I understand their circumstances every day. And turning a blind eye to folks that are trying to help, and then turning around and actually asking a financially strapped city to then fund something when there are other outlets, I'm not sure if it's being maximized to its potential. That's what I'm trying to say, is that we have to make sure that when we engage with populations, we don't engage with blinders on or with our ears covered. So that's what I'm asking. If someone can please answer my question in terms of the money that was reached out for to try to help families. Do you have, is there a response to that?
Through you, Madam President, if I could, I don't really know. I don't know what you mean. I mean, money that was reached out for, that was, I don't know, you know, I'm not in a position, if there's grants for hundreds of $1,000s, no one reached out to me and said, here's $100,000
Yes,
grant.
yes. Yes, I did.
What you mean?
Yeah, I reached out to you personally. I reached out to Councilwoman Bermudez. I sent emails. I'm trying to help, and no one responded back, dating back to last year. So that's what I'm trying to say, is that folks have been trying to help for a long time, and I'm just curious as to, you know, if we're maximizing the potential efforts. I understand this Vera Institute, and I'm a proponent. If we can match that, I would. But we also have to make sure that we maximize the opportunities that come before us. And so that's what I'm asking.
Through you, Madam President. I do remember you sending me something which I forwarded on, because I'm not really in a position to deal with that stuff, right? I can facilitate those things, but let us suppose, for the sake of argument, that was a failure on my part, which maybe it was. I don't know. But if it was, if I failed somehow to respond and to facilitate grant money getting to this population, well, that's on me. But this is a separate opportunity for the city to help the population. So I don't think my failure, if it is that, should be the thing that keeps this city from using a little bit of its own money to get more money to do more good. I don't know if that answers the question.
Councilwoman,
Just
sorry,
one
Councilwoman
final thing, and
Rossetti?
then I'm reading it again. It does say unless there's something different, the letter of, the letter that needed to go to them had to be dated by January 17th, 2019. So letter of interest.
That was
no
for
later.
last year, Councilwoman.
Well,
Rossetti.
that's what you've
That
sent
letter was
us.
for last year.
That's what you've sent us, Councilwoman. So
That
I
was-
don't have anything new. That's,
Good. Well, let me ask through you, Madam President, to both, I think especially Councilwoman Rossetti, because I think her concern is really legitimate. Corp Council has told us that we could make this allocation or the spending of the allocation conditional. I didn't hear, or I'm not sure if I got to ask properly, what happens to the money if we don't get the matching grant? Where does the money go? And I would ask Corp Council through you, Madam President.
Wouldn't it stay in CIP?
Thank you. So I would perhaps further amend my possibly friendly amendment to add language that would affect that purpose. To say, to increase the allocation and subject to the receipt of a matching grant from the Vera Institute of Justice within that fiscal year. And that way, if it doesn't work out, no harm, no foul.
Are there any other discussions?
Council President, we were waiting for Howard to weigh in.
I think he said that the money, if we were to phrase it thus, the money would go back to CIP. Did I get that right?
Through you, Council President, yes.
Okay, are there any other discussions? Any other discussions? Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll and give a quick clarification on what we're calling the roll on, please?
The motion to add a resolve to Tim's number one, to decrease, I believe, line number 59107 for $70,000, increase deportation fund to 70,000, which will equal 100,000, to apply for a matching grant of $100,000 with a contingency that if the grant is not granted, that the money will refer back to Health and Human Services, I believe it is, right?
A point of clarification, if I could.
Yes.
Please, Councilman Mitchum.
I believe the line was 591047.
47. Thank you.
The contingency was that the money would go back to that line if the city did not receive a matching grant from the Vera Institute.
That grant item, through you, Madam Chair, sorry.
Go ahead, Councilman LeBron.
That grant item is under Health and Human Services, correct? That line item is under Health and Human Services.
Correct.
Councilwoman Rossetti?
I don't want to complicate this any further, but I would suggest that we add the contingency for the bond money also. That way we're completely set.
Does that make sense?
so that we're clear, Mr. Clerk, could you please read the lines that we're voting on, please?
Okay, voting on line number 591047.
Is everyone clear?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
So with the
Councilmember Rossetti?
contingency of the bonding and the grant. Is that what you said, Mr. Clerk?
Let me get the wording correct from Councilman Mitchum.
Okay.
According to the bonding.
Start fresh. Should I just start from the top and do the whole wording?
Yes.
Will that work? Okay. So it is an additional resolve to decrease the CIP line, that's 591047, Pago Capex Reserve, by $70,000. Increase the allocation to the Families Facing Deportation Fund by $70,000, contingent upon the following. One, that the city receives a matching grant from the Vera Institute, and two, that the $70,000 is replaced through state bonding. That's it.
Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum.
Yes.
Councilman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilman Rossetti.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader?
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to make a motion that we take action on financial resolution DIMS number 2, and it reads as follows. Resolve that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a reallocation of $1 million within the Hartford Police Department, $500,000 from the detention center and $500,000 from the vice and the narcotics unit, $300,000 to be used for a permanent domestic violence team, and $700,000 for community walk beat and training, especially pertaining to cultural competency and de-escalation and conflict resolution training. Such training to be conducted by an external service agency and to reflect that of current national training standards, and be it further resolved, excuse me, that the mayor's recommend the budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a reduction in $1 million from the Hartford Police Department, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $200,000 for the Department of Public Works for maintainer 1 positions. Funds were allocated from Hartford Police Department in the $1 million reduction, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase in $200,000 of the Office of Corporation Counsel for the Civilian Police Review Board for the purposes of staff and professional support services to be taken from the Hartford Police Department reduction, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect $75,000 in funding of the Office of Corporation Counsel Police Accountability Review Board taken from the Hartford Police Department reduction, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase to the Civilian Police Review Board of $50,000 for stipend taken from the Hartford Police Department reduction, And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect $155,000 increase in funding to the Department of Families, Children's, Youth, and Recreation. I'm sorry, as I'm reading this, I'd like to insert a friendly amendment because the wording in this resolution is inaccurate. It refers to the State Department of Children and Families. So I will read it as follows, as it should be. The Department of Children's, Families, Youth, and Recreation after-school recreation programs shall be used to create such programs in the city neighborhoods in conjunction with the Hartford Board of Education. To the recreation programs may be provided to our youth during the school year in all our neighborhoods. In addition to those programs at the Park Memorial Recreation Center and the Royal Recreation Center, with initial emphasis on community schools. Funding is taken from the Hartford Police Department reduction. Be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase in budget of $200,000 to the Department of Health and Human Services. For 2 health inspectors, firms were reallocated from the Hartford Police Department reduction, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of the $120,000 for the Department of Development Services, license and inspections to be used for an additional housing inspector. These funds were taken from the Hartford Police Department reduction.
I second the motion.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Are there any discussions? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I would like to make the motion that we take action on non-financial resolution DIMS. Should be number 1, resolve authorizing for the city of Hartford to allocate $30,000 from the capital improvement project funds to the solid waste task force for waste management studies.
Second the motion.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Any discussions? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez, Councilwoman Bermudez, Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I would like to make the motion that we ask, that's speed. I just would like to take note that we actually took action according to the agenda package. We took item on financial resolution number 2. So hopefully that can be corrected. This is actually financial resolution number 1, which is resolved that the Court of Common Council finds the assumptions and projections in the proposed 5-year plan to be reasonable, and that such plan provides a sound baseline for the planning for the city's continuing fiscal stability and operational needs, recognizing that ongoing and continuous actions and decisions with respect to expenditures and revenues will be required, and be it further resolved that the Court of Common Council hereby approves the 5-year plan as contained in the city's fiscal year 2021 budget for the period covering fiscal year 2021 through fiscal year 2025.
Second.
We have a motion that's been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Any discussions? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez. Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I would like to make the motion that we take action on financial resolution WFP number 1. Resolve that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $100,000 to the Health and Human Services reallocation 588300 to be dedicated for the assistance of immigrant families residing in Hartford and deportation, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect the decrease of $100,000 in the non-operational department budget, reflecting a decrease in the payment to outside agencies and others 822006.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Councilman Gale?
This,
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering if the proponents would withdraw this, as we seemingly just, if I'm not mistaken, didn't we just act on this?
Correct.
So could the proponents simply withdraw it?
Councilman Mitchum?
Like
That's
to-
correct. I move to withdraw this.
Second.
Are there any other discussions? Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Order. I don't think we need the roll. It's withdrawn. We're done with that one. Nothing to vote on.
Howard, for clarification purposes, we don't have to do a roll call on the motion from Councilman Clark, second by Councilman LeBron.
Madam President, when a matter is withdrawn, no, you do not.
Thank you for that clarification. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I would like to make the motion that we take action on financial resolution WFP number 2. And it reads as follows: resolve that the mayor's recommended budget for the fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $25,000 to the Hartford Public Library HPL to go towards, but not limited to, the acquisition of translation equipment, translation service of city communication, community outreach as expressed by the mayor's office, and translation at HPO community meetings/events as requested by respective residents of Hartford's immigrant community whose primary language is not English, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $25,000 in the non-operational department budget, reflecting a decrease in the civic engagement budget 589271.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Councilman Mitchum?
I won't belabor the point, but we are a city of immigrants from all over, and the Hartford Public Library is offering all kinds of wonderful services that could be more accessible to folks if we could provide translation, things like access to benefits, job application, all the stuff that goes on there. And this is a relatively small amount of money that they identified, I say the library, that they said would allow them to provide translation services, not just to Spanish, but to a host of other languages, Portuguese, Vietnamese, etc., that are spoken here. So what this does is it really just opens up lots of other services we provide to more of our residents.
Councilwoman Bermudez?
I wanted to add, we received during this budget process a letter from CREA, Commission on Refugees and Immigrants. And it was through this letter that we drafted this resolution in terms of the need for translations, especially during this pandemic as a prime example. At the moment, the city of Hartford, nor does the Hartford Public Library have access to translation equipment for community meetings or events.
Are there any other discussions? Councilman Deal?
The only concern that I have is that the money there, the pot of money that the resolution seeks to draw from is the civic engagement line item in the budget. And that line item only has 25,000. So we're effectively saying that civic engagement for the city of Hartford now has zero appropriated for it. And I think just the other day, the mayor actually referenced some civic engagement. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think he was reaching into this budget. So I'm just wondering if the proponents would consider another source for the funding. I'm not necessarily opposed to the increase of 25,000, but I am concerned about decreasing 25,000 from the civic engagement budget, and would prefer to see it come from some other line item.
In fiscal year, if I may, fiscal year 2017, there were no funds allocated to civic engagement. In fiscal year 2018, there were no funds allocated to civic engagement. In fiscal year 2019, we adopted 25,000. In fiscal year 2020, we adopted 25,000. I bring that up because we also recognize that there are nonprofit agencies who have received funding for civic engagement. Several of them have received funding for civic engagement from the Hartford Foundation and/or other sources. If the city was serious about allocating more funds towards civic engagement, then certainly 25,000 is a very small piece of the pie to have a significant impact on civic engagement.
Councilman Mixton?
Madam President, I recognize the concern of Councilman Gale. I would just say that because it is such a small amount, it would be hard, it might be hard to say that we must always divvy it up among many, many small things. And I would suggest that we all have the wherewithal and creativity, if there's something else that needs funding, to find some other fairly relevant line and fund it. I think civic engagement, in addition to being small, is sort of a broad term that could fit into a whole bunch of other things. So I recognize the concern, but I think in this case, it's probably, I would suggest we'll be okay.
Councilman Gale?
Yeah, so while we've been discussing this, I've gotten some texts that tell me indeed we're using civic engagement for the census. I knew I had heard something had been dipped into this, and look, I would like to make I'll call it a friendly amendment, that you decrease another part of the budget to get you 25,000, and I'm going to suggest a line item for you. I'm going to suggest, in line with Councilwoman Bermudez, who noted that the line item you were looking at had been there for several years and hadn't been used. I'm going to give you a line item that hasn't been used at all in 4 years, except to the tune of $60. And that's under the treasurer's budget. It's line item 5535206, which has been at $50,000 for 4 years. And during those 4 years, the treasurer has spent exactly $60. That's a line item for bank charges that the treasurer expects, and he doesn't get charged. He doesn't have any bank charges, so it's although it's $50,000, he's only spent $660. So I'm wondering if you would consider taking your 25 from that pot.
Councilman Nixon?
We absolutely would consider taking our 25,000. Money is fungible. That's the great thing about it. Thank you, Councilman Gill. So I would
And just to know, that was my question to the treasurer on why it was in every year and it wasn't used. So thank you, Councilman Gale.
Are there any other discussions? Mr. Town Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilwoman Bermudez? Councilwoman Bermudez?
Yes.
Councilman Clark?
Abstain.
Councilman Gale?
Yes.
Councilman LeBron?
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum?
yes.
Councilwoman Rosado?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti?
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sturgeon?
Abstain.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I would like to make a motion that we take action on financial resolution, WFP number 3, that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $400,000 to the Department of Family, Children, Youth, and Recreation budget for purpose of providing more funding for early learning centers, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $400,000 in the debt service budget, reflecting a decrease in the pay-go CapEx reserve 591047.
I'll need a second on the motion.
Second.
A motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Any discussions? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand. Councilwoman Bermudez.
thank you. So yes, for this particular line item, we have seen that monies have been allocated, but not completely spent. And so if we look at our year to date, we're actually under what we were projected to spend. We're under $1 million. And so the request through this budget was to request an additional $2 million, putting the fund at $4 million, where in the past fiscal years, 2017, moving up, we have only spent 2 million, no more than 2 million and change.
Councilman Gale, did you raise your hand?
No, I'm sorry. I raised my glasses.
Oh, okay.
Try to read
Are there
this.
any other discussions? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Okay, Madam President, I didn't hear who seconded.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Thank you. Councilwoman Bermudez. Councilwoman Bermudez. I'm not hearing you. I'm not hearing. Yes, thank you. Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
No.
Councilman LeBron.
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
No.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
motion pass.
Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion that we take action on the following resolution. Financial resolution, WFP, resolve that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $300,000 to the Department of Public Works for waste and recycling for purposes including but not limited to the purchase and maintenance of vehicles and staff, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $300,000 from debt service budget, reflecting a decrease in the pay. So CapEx reserve 591047, and be it, and that's it.
Second.
We have a motion that's been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Councilman Mixtum?
Thank you, Madam President. The background on this resolution is conversations that Councilwoman Bermudez and I had with personnel at DPW concerning their equipment, and that they have been behind in terms of the amount they would usually spend on maintenance, and also the number of mechanics for the wide variety of vehicles that they have to do work on, because they maintain a number of different city fleets, not just the DPW fleet. And this would, in their estimation, allow them to bring, especially some of the heavy equipment, the garbage trucks, up to a better functioning level, which hopefully plays out well for all of us in terms of getting our trash collected and things of that nature. So we didn't just make this up out of whole cloth. This was their request based on their needs.
Are there any other discussions?
Council,
Councilwoman Bermudez?
through you. Thank you. The amount that would be reduced, that would be taken out, would be from the capital improvement. And the reason being, and I'll go back to the conversation that we had with our state delegation, feeling very confident that we would be able to get some of these monies back through state bonding.
Councilman Mixtum?
So I would just add, because I know there was some concern, reasonable concern from Councilman Rossetti the last time we were talking about this question of replacing funds later through state bonding, that we would certainly be open to that same friendly amendment, or I guess last time I made the amendment, but a friendly amendment to make the payment contingent on the replacement of the funds through bonding.
So is that you're requesting a friendly amendment?
I'm actually asking through you whether any of my colleagues have that concern here.
I am just going to wait a couple of minutes. Councilwoman Rossetti screen froze and she's rebooting up her system. Nick is Councilman LeBron is sending Marilyn. Councilman Gale, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. It is getting late. It's midnight. It's the witching hour. And I may have missed something. Was there a question on the floor from Councilman Victim?
Through you, Madam President, because this resolve also relies on the capital improvements budget that we had some assurance would get replaced through state bonding, and because Councilman Rossetti had raised some concern about the uncertainty of that, I had asked all of my colleagues if anyone felt that we needed to make an amendment similar to the previous one to make the payment of these funds contingent on their replacement through state bond. And then we were waiting. Oh, and here is Councilwoman Rossetti. And as soon as she gives me the high sign, I will say what I said again.
I'm back. My internet went out.
Fair. So I'll just repeat, because I was really saying this mostly for you. This resolve is another one that draws on the capital improvements budget with the understanding that it will likely be replaced by state bonding. You had wanted a contingency language, and so I had asked all my colleagues right at the moment when your internet went out whether anyone would want me to make that amendment so that the money would only get dispersed if it got replaced via state bond.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's an accurate. I mean, I must confess, I don't know, but I mean, the particular part of the budget that you're taking this from is non-operating department expenditures, and this is leases and new leases and purchases, presumably for replacing vehicles throughout the city. It's not in the it's not in the pay-as-you-go capital budget. So I'm not exactly understanding. This isn't traditionally funded by bonding. So you're somehow suggesting that we could potentially get some bonding from the state to buy police cars, garbage trucks, or whatever else we need?
I'd like to clarify. So on the financial resolution we sent out, it's line item 591047, which is the PAYGO CapEx reserve.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I'm looking at an earlier version of it.
Yeah, you must be looking at an earlier version.
Councilman Mixtum.
So then I would just reiterate, I guess, through you, Madam President, if Councilwoman Rossetti or anyone else feels that this needs a similar contingency amendment.
I don't see this one as the same as the last one, but that's up to others.
I'm going to have to agree with Councilwoman Rossetti. Are there any other discussions? Go ahead, Councilman Mixtum.
And I would make a friendly amendment to add the same language to the effect that the funds shall only be dispersed if they are replaced through state bonding.
Mr. Town Clerk, are you ready to call the roll?
Yes, I am. Councilwoman Bermudez. Councilwoman Bermudez. Councilman Clark.
No.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
No.
Councilman LeBron.
No.
Councilman Mitchum.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
No.
Councilwoman Rossetti, sorry.
No.
Councilman Sanchez.
No.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
No.
motion fails.
Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I would like to make the motion that we take action on item number WFP number 7, that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $240,000 to development services for the creation of a city department to promote arts and culture in Hartford, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $240,000 in the non-operational department budget, reflecting a decrease in Gulf Enterprise 599060.
Do I have a second on the motion? I'm sorry?
Second.
A motion has been made and properly seconded. Are there any discussions? Any discussions? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Wanted to let's say something.
Councilwoman Bermudez?
Yes, so I wanted to mention, we got in contact with Lolita in reference to,
Si tú-
can people hear me? Hello? What just happened?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Hear you.
Okay. So, the golf enterprise, that specific line item has to do with the depreciation that the city pays on the golf courses. During this pandemic, we've all received a lot of concerns. One of those being from our constituents related to golf courses and who access them. And specifically, how many people, Hartford residents, are able to access them. How many do? And so in the past, we have received updates through the Public Works Parks Environment Committee in reference to those numbers. And we have noted that it is 20%, depending on the golf course, because we have 2 golf courses. 20% of Hartford residents use the golf courses, whether it's at Keeney Park or at Goodwin Park. So at this time during this pandemic, when many people's only outlet, if they can go out, has been the parks, we have to really focus on where people are going to. In the case of Goodwin Park, just putting it out there, we received emails, calls from constituents stating that they did not have access to golf courses because the golf courses are meant for golfing. So if you don't fall within that 20% bracket of residents that use the golf course, then the park is not accessible to you. And so one of the things that we would like to see with this is to have a reallocation so that we can have arts and cultures, the art and culture department back in Hartford in the way that we had in the past.
Not to belabor this, but as the chair of the Parks Committee and as someone who lives near Goodwin Park, and I am not a golfer, but I watched that golf course, I think we're mixing 2 issues here. Certainly, we can look into the usage of the golf courses, how many are Hartford residents, how that is skewed versus, I certainly know a lot of women who use the golf course. So I think we're mixing what we need to do. And I personally would not be in favor of that.
Councilman LeBron?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, we're all tired and it's getting late. So I'm just curious, would it say that the parks weren't accessible? Is that what you said, Councilman, Woman Bermudez?
If you go into Goodwin Park, there are vast majority of the park is not accessible if you are not a golfer.
Because it's a golf course.
Right, I'm trying to figure, like, so I know the parking spaces were closed, but you could have parked on the streets, and I've seen people access park. Although that's not my closest park, I've seen people access Pope, Elizabeth. I'm just curious as to why the focus on golf and Goodwin in particular. I'm just confused as to why was Goodwin closed.
If you're going to Goodwin Park to golf, then there's no reason for you to go to that park as a Hartford resident.
Absolutely false. Absolutely false.
Oh.
That is incorrect information. Councilman Mixtum?
Point of clarification, I heard Councilman Bermudez say that 20% of the city uses it. I believe the statistic is that 20% of the users are from the city, which is to say 80% are from outside the city. And if I understand Councilman Bermudez right, what she's saying is it is a vast tract of land that requires a lot of maintenance, mostly for people from outside the city. And in fact, we compared the revenues of the golf courses to the expenditures on the golf courses, and every year it loses money. Now, I think parks should lose money on residents, right? Parks aren't businesses. But if we are keeping these parts of the parks, which is to say the golf courses, open largely so that folks from outside of Hartford could come use them, and on top of that, we're not making money, maybe we spend that money some other way.
Councilman Sanchez?
Okay, I completely disagree. Okay. I've struggled for the last 4 years to get funding for the Goodwin Golf Course, especially, so that we can dredge the 3 ponds, which we're doing now, so that we can put in a good irrigation system and save $60,000 a year. All right, now Kinney Golf Course there's a lot of money that's been invested in that golf course. It is the #1 renovated golf course in the country. And because of that, they've been bringing in new revenue, and they've been sustainable. Now, when you have weather like a couple of years ago where it was a rainy summer, obviously that's going to affect the revenue, right? But now going back to Goodwin Golf Course, you still have the playscapes. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 was stopped is what stopped the folks using the swimming pool facility. Okay, so we can't blame that on that no one can use the park. But there's plenty of areas in the park of Goodwin that you can go to, families, children that can go and enjoy themselves. Now, obviously, if you go to the golf course, that's for golfing. Now, our Hartford residents, they have a discount. So anyone in Hartford can go over there and play golf. So they're not restricted. So, I'm just confused of how, we're saying that Hartford resident can't use the park. It's not only a golf course, it's also a park. So, I'm not supporting this one. And I just want to move forward with this because the information is not correct.
Councilman Clark?
Call the question.
I had my hand up. I think I should get to say before we call the question one thing.
Councilman Mixtum?
Thank you much, Madam President. I wanted to respond to Councilman Sanchez just to clarify a little bit. It's not that anyone is prevented from going to the golf course if they golf and if they can pay the money, whether discounted or not. It's that what we know is that it's mostly not Hartford residents who go there. It's 80% out of towners. And what we also know, and I'm looking at the revenue numbers versus the expenditure numbers, is that, for example, fiscal year 2018, we spent on both courses $2,074,582, and we made $1,709,000. Fiscal year 19, we spent $1,883, and we made $1,535. Fiscal year 20, up to partway through the year, we spent 1,495,000, and we made 1,370,000. So this is an operation that, while lovely and frequently renovated, we are keeping lovely and renovated for people who do not pay taxes here. That is what it is.
Thank you. So question has been called. The question has been called. There hasn't been a second motion. Since we are ending our discussion, Councilman, Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
This is on call the question. It has not been seconded, so
Second.
okay.
We had ended our discussion
Oh,
So what am I calling the roll on, Madam President?
on the resolution.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Bermudez,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
No.
Councilman Gale,
No.
Councilman LeBron,
no.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
No.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
No.
Councilman Sanchez,
No.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
No.
Motion failed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I would like to make the motion that we take action on financial resolution WFP number 8, that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $196,696.50 from the Hartford Police Department Career Development Budget, item number 212039, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $398,231.75 from the Hartford's Department of Special Investigations Division, item number 212012, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $594,928.25 to development services for the creation of a city department to promote arts and culture in Hartford, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $224,539.80 for Hartford Police Department's Traffic Division, item number 212032, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $224,539.80 development services for hiring inspectors, housing inspectors. Resolved that their mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $558,671.75 from the Hartford Police Department's headquarters budget, item number 212027, be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $1,154,934 from Hartford Police Department's detention budget, item number 212030, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $238,810.25 from the Hartford Department's Crime Scene Division, item number 212013, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $1,717. $1,717, yes, at 17,000, sorry, $416. I'll read that again. $1,717,416 to the Department of Children's, Families, Youth, and Recreation for the creation of expansion of early childhood centers. Resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $1,558,341.25 from Hartford Police Department's North District, 212023, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for the fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $1,666,553.50 from Hartford Police Department District, item 212025, And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a reallocation of $3,224,894.75 to the education budget for investment in technology for the students and teachers of Hartford Public Schools. Resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $128,984.75 from the Hartford Police Department's Crime and Analysis Division, item number 212021, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $128,984.75 to the Health and Human Services for the continuation of the Hartford Families Facing Deportation Fund. Resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $1,192,116 from the Hartford Police Department's Police Academy, item number 212018, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an allocation of $1,192,116 to the education budget to be used to expand comprehensive sexual health education program and partnerships that teach students about healthy relationships and consent. Resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $710,137,000. Sorry, is that right? $710,137.75 from the Hartford Police Department's Major Crimes Office, item number 212009. Be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $1,001,134.25 from the Hartford Police Department's Vice and Narcotics Unit, item number 212010, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $85,000 from Hartford Police Department Special Teams Overtime, item number 212022, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $1,796,272 to the Department of Children's Family, Youth, and Recreation to be used to expand youth programming open to all people, young people in Hartford, and to expand outreach to include as many young Hartford residents as possible. Resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $300,243.25 from Hartford Police Department's Chief's Office, item number 212000, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $465,302 from Hartford Police Department's K-9 Unit, item number 212035, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $765,545.25 to the Department of Health and Human Services to be used for expanding programming and hiring social workers to advocate, support, and provide services with the aim of reducing sexual assault and supporting survivors.
Second. A motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Councilman Mixtum?
Thank you, Madam President. Obviously, this bears some explanation. I should start by saying that our hope was that this was something that we could discuss. We had originally drafted it as a number of separate resolutions addressing the various parts, but we didn't have time, or the majority didn't get back to us. The majority just called the government. So here we are. That said, as all of you know, because I've been browbeating you with emails and Facebook posts and Twitter posts and what have you, Hartford has a very large police force. It is much larger. It is more than double the national average for cities our size. There is, as you know from the articles that I have shared with you, no demonstrated link between a whole bunch of police and a big reduction in crime. And you probably have heard, or you've seen in the news, for example, the head of the police union said, if we reduce police crime will go up. The thing that he didn't do was point to any statistics or studies or numbers to confirm that. And in fact, if you look at other cities our size who have fewer police, some of them have more crime and some of them have less crime, even when they have the same level of other similar indicators. So I know that we have this situation where our constituents say they want to see more police. And I think it is our duty, if we are in the business of leading and governing, to engage more with our constituents, to say to them, do you realize that there is another way to prevent crime, perhaps a more effective way, which is to put that money that would have gone to police into services on the other end, into the services before people get to the level of crime. And that is what this resolution does. This resolution increases the quality of our housing for all of our residents by adding 3 more housing inspectors. It adds, excuse me, I need water and I'm out. It adds activities for youth, recreation for youth. It adds education to help avoid domestic violence situations. It adds, I'm running out of examples, but you can see them. The goal here is to deliver our social services through social workers and the other kinds of folks who are trained to deliver social services, and not through police. You've heard the mayor say that this would result in a reduction of 100 police officers. I can't say whether that's true or not. I don't know quite how all these things work, but we're 230 over where we need to be. And what it would also result in is a huge increase in the number of other workers who are doing the important work. The mayor talked about how we would lose community policing, and the things he described were youth outreach, homeless outreach, illegal dumping enforcement. And what I want to suggest to you is those are all things that we can do with people who don't have guns. And in fact, it's sort of insulting to our people, the people of Hartford, to say that the only way we can engage with you, the only way we can give you the services that you need is with police. That the way that we keep our city safe is with coercion and criminalization. Now, I think this would be true anytime, but as you all know, our whole nation and our city have been convulsed by the murder of George Floyd, Minneapolis, and what that means and what it reminds us of about policing, not just in Minneapolis, but everywhere. I think we can all agree that that is a problem that is here as much as it is elsewhere. And to a certain degree, if we haven't had a tragedy like what happened there or in Ferguson or in all of the other places where black men have been killed, black men and black women have been killed by police, it's not because our police are so much more perfect, but because we're lucky. It's by the grace of God. And the longer we have an oversized police force, the more interactions our police are having, especially with our young men, the more risk we run that will come home to roost in Hartford. And now is a moment when our city is asking us to take a step ahead, to do something different that is more than just create a committee to make recommendations that who knows where we'll get. We can make a radical change for the good. We have one of the highest police to population ratios in the nation, and we're in a position to make a big cut and say it's time to do things different. Now, I will say I'm very open if any of my colleagues would like to negotiate some of these cuts. I wanted to do it behind the scenes. We didn't get a chance, but I would love to make amendments. I will start by making a friendly amendment to remove the resolve concerning FFDF, because we had dealt with that elsewhere. But I would urge all of you to take this chance to be on the right side of history. You all offered cuts. I say you all, I'm sorry, Councilman. The Democrats offered cuts that amount to 2% of the police budget, of an oversized police budget. We offered cuts that amount to 21%.
I think the people would be very pleased. I mean, they filled up City Hall today. They were screaming and hooting and hollering, and they've been filling up our streets. There are a lot, and they filled up our email inboxes, and they filled up my Twitter feed. They're everywhere saying, do it differently. Now is our chance to show some bravery, to show some leadership. Now, I know you all are probably thinking, if crime goes up, it's going to come down on our heads. And the truth is, that's true. But we can look at the numbers and we can make a smart call, or we can make the safe, right and call and do nothing. So I'm asking you all, one, to vote for the whole thing. But if you don't want to vote for the whole thing, tell me how we can get some of it.
Councilman, I just want to talk about, not telling me to be on the right side of what you believe. That makes my life, or what I've experienced as a woman my age, married to a Black man. Don't try to tell me what I'm on the right side of just by what you've proposed. I appreciate it, but please don't dictate to me your beliefs that mine are wrong. I would never do that to you.
Fair.
Councilman Gale?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Just to respond to a couple of points here. Councilman Mictum did send out in advance of tonight's meeting some of the communities that he was comparing Hartford to when he put forward the statistic that we have twice as many officers in communities that are our size. And indeed, in looking at those various communities, these are not apples to apples comparisons. He compared us to Gainesville, Florida. He compared us to Lansing, Michigan. He compared us to Springfield, Illinois. And in each case, when I Googled the standard metropolitan statistical areas of each of these cities, they are dramatically smaller than Hartford. Hartford is sitting in the middle of a metropolitan statistical area of 1.2 million people. Our police force isn't here just to police the 124,000 people that live here. Our police force must take into account the 65,000 people that come into Hartford every day to work. All of those people that come into Hartford for entertainment, they come into Hartford for arts, culture, they come into Hartford for hospitals, they come into Hartford to use our universities. We're a metropolitan police force. We are not Gainesville, which has 288,000 people in its metropolitan area. We got 1.2 million people. So it's really not an apples to apples comparison. The other thing, though, is we're not just talking about crime. We're talking about public safety. What our police force does, there's part of the police force, clearly, it goes out there to try to solve crimes. But a whole lot, if not most of what they do, is just simply public safety, just simply keeping order in town, traffic flow, taking care of a problem when your car gets hit in a car accident. All of these kinds of things, these everyday routine things that have to be taken care of. And for the proponents to feel that a 20 to 25% immediate reduction in the police department's budget would somehow leave us in the same position that we were is absolutely ludicrous. I'm not against revamping the police department. None of us are. We've taken moves to do so tonight, and we're going to take continual moves to do so. But I want to point out something that I think is a little bit more apropos of the true comparisons. I went out and got some data and some statistics that showed that the average municipality in the United States, the entire United States, spends $354 per person on policing. That's whether you're in North Dakota, Alabama, California, Connecticut, $354. Well, we're a large metropolitan area in the Northeast, one of the more densest places in the country. We spend $376,000. That's in the current budget. The mayor's budget reduced the 376 to 370, and tonight this council has already reduced the 370 to 362. So we've made some pretty dramatic reductions in that. We're within a standard deviation of what is the average throughout the entire United States. So I think it's complete falsehood to somehow imply that Hartford's police force is way out of whack with what it should be. It's not. it's right in line with what it should be. So again, that said, I'm certainly not against, nor do I think any other colleagues on this council are against looking at making changes to our budget, making changes to our police department, continuously looking out for the best interests of the citizens of Hartford. How do we make this place work better? How do we produce these things? But this particular resolution is not the way to do it. Thank you.
Councilman LeBron. Thank you, Councilman Gale.
Yes, so I think I want to address a few things, and I'm going to try to, I know it's late, but we all know what we signed up for as elected officials, so we're going to push through. So I'm going to try to keep my comments concise. You know, one of the things is, you know, I think we've all been inundated this week, and we all have been influenced and really been affected in different ways. And you know, we have a moment in time, and the way that we process those things are all very differently. And for me to sit here to think that I have all the right answers, I would be lying to you. But one of the things I think that is important to do as elected officials is to listen. And so what I did this week was listen. And I listened, and I fielded phone calls, aggressive ones at times, someone that were very understanding. Some people through text engaged in the community, went to rallies. But one of the things that I will not listen to is folks from out of town, the Karens from Cromwell, who continually tell us how we supposed to manage our budget, when folks from suburban towns don't send their children to our schools, who don't want our influence in their cities, who vote regularly against helping us in our city. And so when I get inundated from Greenwich's and West Haven, you best believe I'm not going to listen. I'm going to listen to my people and the people that it affects in this city. So let me go on further to say that in terms of cities that are comparable to Hartford, we have less officers per 10,000 residents than Baltimore, than Philly, than St. Louis, than Cleveland, than Atlanta, than Chicago, than New York, than Miami. Okay? Now let's keep it local. Let's keep it in state. So all the suburban folks that love to compare Hartford to comparable cities. Let's talk about New Haven. You add the Yale police officers in New Haven, they have a ratio of 40.5. Okay? So now let's do that. So then the other thing is that's so common, LA's budget of decreasing 150 million. Well, that's kind of false, because what they did was they just took the money out that they added. So here we are at a moment in time where we have made initiatives, we heard folks loud and clear, and we made shifts. And I agree with you, Councilman Mickham. You're right, one board ain't gonna do it, and I agree with you. There's going to be a lot of reform that needs to take place. So I'm calling on all of us to dig down deep and find those things. And I'm also calling on my state and federal and elected officials to help us here in the city through various means and through various grants so that we can make up the gaps here in the city of Hartford. So we have an opportunity here, and I think all of us collectively, you know, we all are feeling this. And we have to take this moment in time and continue to head in the right direction. We're not going to change things overnight. We're not going to change systematic oppression that's happened over hundreds of years in one resolution, in one budget meeting. But we got to take the right steps, and we got to do it together. And we have to do it with planning, and we have to do it with collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman LeBron. Councilwoman Bermudez.
Thank you. We are at a critical time, without a doubt. And here we have before us an opportunity to vote on public services. Much needed public services. We're in a pandemic. We've received a lot of emails, a lot of messages from the community expressing their sentiments to reallocate funds from the police department. Yes, we've received emails from people who don't live in Hartford, but we've also received a significant amount of emails from those that do live in Hartford. And so a concern that was raised to us by those who do live in Hartford is, our emails, our messages, are they being factored in? Are they being counted? Are we being disregarded? And so the emails, the quantity of emails that we've gotten has certainly surpassed any amount that we've gotten before, compared to the 4.5 years that I've been doing this budget process. So clearly this is an issue that really resonates with people, and people are really passionate about, and they want to see a difference in. In reference to other cities, here in Connecticut, Waterbury has 300 sworn officers. Stamford has 301, just to put things into perspective. Bridgeport has 381. And here we are in Hartford, we have 430. So one of the things that we have to consider is, where do we want to put our priorities? Do we want to have more housing inspectors? Do we want to have more youth programming? Do we want to have more possibilities for recreational centers to receive more funding? Do we want to have more social workers? These are priorities that our constituents are telling us at this moment that we absolutely want, that they absolutely want, that they absolutely need. And here we are, and we're only reducing the Hartford Police Department budget by a significant fraction.
Councilman Nystrom.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to respond to my colleagues on a couple points. I mean, first, generally, it's hard to find a perfectly comparable city. You know, Gainesville is different in some ways. Springfield is different in some ways. I mean, I found a lot of cities and I picked a handful. Albany maybe would have been a better example, or Bridgeport. Councilman LeBrun listed sort of the other cities that accompany us in the top 10. But, you know, it's a huge country, so to be in the top 10 in the police to population ratio is a problem. And Councilman Gale raised that in terms of our expenditures, we're not so out of whack. And I'll be honest, it's not the expenditures alone that concern me. It is the number of police officers. Because in addition to the social services that we gain from that money, we're talking about conflict, right? Councilman Gale said it's not just, he listed traffic, accident scenes, things like that. We do not need people with guns to do that work. And when you have people with guns who are trained in conflict and trained in seeing every interaction with a civilian as potentially dangerous, which is how police are trained, for better or worse, you're going to get conflict. And eventually you're going to get tragedy. So this one last thing, Councilman Gale said, we can't just suddenly take away that part of the force, but we're not just suddenly taking it away. Like Councilwoman Bermudez said, we're taking it away, we're replacing it with a different force, a better force, a force that does much of that same work without the guns, without the aggression, without the confrontation. What's more, we'd be replacing it with a force that much more is likely to live and work and look like the people. Our oversized police force is a jobs program for suburban white people with guns. So I think it would be worthwhile to consider bringing it down. I wish that we would have had the opportunity. I heard both of my colleagues say, you know, we have to work together, we have to negotiate, we have to make changes. Well, we put our proposals out yesterday. We've been here all day. Our proposals were available to everyone first thing in the morning. And we sat here until 7:30 at night to get our first crack at the Democrats' proposal. And we went over it and we said, here's what we like, here's what we don't like, and we talk about the police cuts, and the Democrats said, we'll call you back. And then what the Democrats did was call this into session. And now here we are at 12:44 at night, and I feel bad for running at the mouth because we all went to bed. But we spent 7 hours doing nothing because we did our homework. All right, so if you want to negotiate, if you want to work together, if you want to meet us halfway and respond to all of our constituents, both the ones who think they need more police and the ones who think they need fewer, we could have done that. But instead, here we are in the middle of the night, running at the mouth. So I guess I'm done. But I agree with Councilwoman Bermudez. This is a choice. It's a choice between services and guns. It's a choice between believing in our people's ability to live better without coercion or believing in their criminality. That is the choice that we make with this vote.
Are there any other discussions? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Abstain.
Councilman Gale,
No.
Councilman LeBron,
No.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
No.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
No.
Councilman Sanchez,
No.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Abstain.
Motion failed.
Mr. Majority Leader, for clarification purposes, are there any other resolutions?
Yes, Madam President, there are three non-financial WFP resolutions, and we have to read the resolutions from the Hartford Party.
Mr. Clerk, you have the floor then. I'm sorry, Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion that we take action on non-financial resolution WFP number 1. Resolve that the City of Hartford Police Department provide answers to questions asked by Hartford Court of Common Council members during the City of Hartford budget proceedings, rather than issuing a response for Court of Common Council members to obtain the answers to the questions via a Freedom of Information request.
Come out. Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Councilman Mixtum.
By way of quick explanation, we all submitted our questions to the department heads, as you remember, and we got the answers back. One of the questions that we submitted, Councilwoman Bermudez and I, concerned the K-9 unit, because we wanted to know how effective it is, because we know that statistically K-9 units are not terribly effective, especially when it comes to sniffing out drugs, as opposed to creating probable cause. So we said, we asked for specific things. The answer we got was to describe the K-9 unit, including the arson dog and the bomb dog, and then be told that for the rest of the information, we could submit a FOIA request. But of course, the chief knows that this information is for the budget, because we, another part of the government, asked him to give us the information. If it was hard to get, he could have said, I need more time. But instead, he basically refused to answer. And that's just contemptuous. And as a body, we should expect the co-equal branches of city government, we should expect the department heads to respond to our inquiries in a direct way. And so this way, hopefully, with this resolution, they will know that they can't say, oh, the information you asked for, you have to ask for it again and wait 3 months. It's obnoxious.
Any other discussions? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
No.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
I'm sorry, it's just late. What are we, which one is this is the one about the K-9s?
yes.
No.
No, I'm sorry.
No, it is a non-financial resolution for the Department of Police Department answers to questions asked by Hartford Court of Common Council during the City of Hartford budget process proceedings, rather than going through a FOI request process.
Oh, I didn't have a chance. I abstain.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilman Rosado,
Abstain.
Councilman Rossetti,
Abstain.
Councilman Sanchez,
Abstain also.
Councilman Surgeon.
No.
Motion failed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I would like to make the motion that we take action on non-financial resolution WFP number 2. Resolve that the Court of Common Council receive an audit by the Hartford Human Resources Department regarding the job descriptions and titles of employees in the Department of Public Works Equipment Service area.
I'm sorry, Majority Leader, could you repeat that again?
I would like to take action on non-financial resolution number 2, WFP. Resolved that the Court of Common Council receive an audit by the City of Hartford Human Services Department regarding the job description and titles of employees in the Department of Public Works Equipment Service area.
Second, was there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussions? Councilwoman Bermudez?
During this budget process, we also heard back from DPW employees, and specifically from those employees who work in the equipment service area. Basically, they are the city mechanics. So they clean, they fix all of the trucks, they fix all of the vehicles, all the city fleet, including all the city fleet that is in City Hall, all the city fleet that's in the health department, as well as fixing the vehicles that are in the Hartford Police Department. One of their concerns was that their job descriptions have not been updated since 1970 or 1980 in some cases. And so this request is to have the Hartford Human Resources Department for the City of Hartford review those job descriptions so that they're actually in line with current standards. Comparatively, on the fire department side, they also have mechanics. Those mechanics specifically work on fire trucks, specifically only on fire trucks. Meanwhile, you have two different types of mechanics: those who work on fire trucks and those on DPW who service over 500 city vehicles. And there needs to be an audit.
Are there any other discussions? And just for clarification purposes, we're not going until 1 a.m. If, obviously, we're not going to be done by 12:59, so we are going to have to take a brief pause so that the Hartford Public Access TV can refresh their system. It's only a minute pause. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Pass.
Councilman Gale,
No.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Pass.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilman Surgeon, Councilwoman Surgeon.
Abstain.
Motion pass.
Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to. Oh, but
What?
we still have to vote.
Yeah, we still have to vote. I'm
So-
sorry. On a pass, you have to call back the roll to vote.
Okay. Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
I'm sorry, I lost track of what we're doing.
revoting, calling the roll for the pass.
No, Mr.
Clarification
President.
purposes, it's not Rossetti, it's myself.
Rosado, I'm sorry. It's getting late. Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
motion pass.
Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make the motion that we take action on non-financial resolution WFP number 3. Resolve that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of 15,000 currently budgeted for Councilman Mitchum stipend, Court of Common Council 00112, And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be further amended to reflect an increase of 15,000 distributed on a pro rata basis to the salaries or wages of all city council executive assistants, such that the portion of the monies be divided and paid to them in proportion to the percentage of a full work week for which they are routinely paid for council funds.
Second.
We have a motion that has been made and properly second, and hold that for 1 second until we reboot our system. Okay, so we are on live stream right now, and the system is programmed that at 1 o'clock it will refresh itself. So at 1 a.m., we'll take a 60-second pause and then continue. So we had a motion on the floor that was properly second, and I believe Councilman Mitchum had his hand up. Go ahead, please.
My job, can you hear me now?
Yes.
My day job doesn't let me get paid, so I can't receive my stipend. So my first portion of a year in office, it went to the furlough fund because it was already budgeted for me. But now we can budget it for something else. And so my thought was to share it out among all of our aides. I know maybe the language is a little imprecise, but the idea is to take it and divvy it up evenly, prorated for the folks who were full-time and the folks who were part-time. So it's not a very big raise for anyone. It's a little raise. It doesn't hurt. And rather than just let the money go back to the general fund, because I mean, we would not have made it through this day without our raise.
Okay, we may continue. We're live streaming now. Councilman LeBron?
Yeah, I just want to just make sure that, and so I'm a proponent, let me just make that clear. But I just want to make sure that this has been properly vetted through HR and all that, Councilman Mickham.
Through you, Madam President, I did ask, not HR, but Alexander Lombardi in Corp Counsel's office, how could I do something with this money? And this is what she told me, is that when we got to the budget, I could then, with consent of council, do whatever we all wanted to.
Thank you.
Councilman Gale?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it's a tremendously magnanimous act on the part of Mickham, but I'm a little disconcerted by his rather flippant comment about the general fund. You know, at the end of the day, we're fiduciaries here. We've got the responsibility for the entire city of Hartford, and this city came damn near bankruptcy 3 years ago. In part because councils before us considered the general fund a candy store. And, oh, you know, okay, let's fund this, let's fund that, you know, whatever. With all due respect, I'm in the private world. I'm you know, a lawyer. I've got my business. I've been in my own business for 40 years. I counsel countless other businesses. I've got a pretty fair handle on what's going on out there in the world. And our council aides, no offense to our council aides, but they're paid a very very good salary. As it is, they've got a tremendous benefits package. For those that don't know, the benefits package for every employee of the city of Hartford costs us another 65% on top of that. So the benefits package for each one of our council aides is costing us another $35,000. This is not to take anything away from our council aides. I love them dearly, but just on a matter of principle, if Councilman Mickham can't take his salary, I think it should just go back to the general fund. Thank you.
Councilman Mixtum?
Just wanted to say I didn't mean to be flippant about the general fund, to be sure, and I take the criticism, I take it to heart. And I would only push back to say that I think that our council aide's salary is decent, but it's not a princely sum. I think they could definitely do with more. I think they deserve more, and That's it. That's all I got. I think we should give them the money.
Councilwoman Bermudez?
Thing to say. That's in reference to the health plan in terms of the benefits that the council aides and the city employees receive in general. We recognize that from last year, because there were changes to the health plan now costs a lot more because they're high deductible health plans. So just putting it in perspective, the salary, the stipend that we receive, the 15,000, at the end of the day for me with a family that's on the plan, at the end of the day, my takeaway is no more than 2,000 from that stipend.
Are there any other discussions? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez. Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilman Clark.
Pass.
Councilman Gale.
No.
Councilman LeBron.
Magnanimously, yes.
Councilman Mitchum.
Just as magnanimously, yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Sleepily, yes.
Councilman Sanchez.
Yes.
Councilman Surgeon.
No.
Councilman Clark.
No.
Motion passed.
Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I would like to make the motion that we take action on financial resolution Hartford Party number 1, that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020 to 2021 be amended to reflect an increase of $6,000 in the community impact budget of the non-operating department expenditures budget, which should be used specifically to fund honorarium for the city's appointed honorary positions created in section 2-178 of our ordinances: poet laureate, troubadour, storyteller, commentator, floor artist, and earth artist ordinance. And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect a decrease of $6,000 in the bank's charges line 535206 of the custody of funds budget of the treasurer's office.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Councilman Gale.
Thank you, Madam President. We can return now to the famous line item of the treasurer, where he has $50,000 for bank charges that's never been spent. And I think we've already taken 25,000 of that money earlier tonight. I'm suggesting that we take another 6,000 of it on the folks that we have by ordinance created. We've only actually appointed one of them so far, which is the poet laureate, but the ordinance exists. I understand that we may very soon get recommendations for appointments for the other folks. I think it's a tremendous boon to the city of Hartford, raises our profile throughout the region and certainly within the arts community, and it's fun. So I hope that you can support the $6,000, and we'll put it in the budget where things like Hartford Public Access are and Hartford Guides are, so that it's there year in and year out to fund this, so long as they are ordinances.
Councilman Mitchum.
Just wanted to give my wholehearted support. I think we don't have a Mecca anymore. We don't have an arts agency. So any little thing that we can do to encourage the arts and artists in our city, we should do it.
Are there any other discussions? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
No.
Councilman Gale. Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilman LeBron.
For the sake of fun, yes.
Councilman Mitchum.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti, Councilwoman Rossetti,
Pass.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
No.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
motion pass.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, do we have any resolutions left to discuss? 3? Okay.
We have some non-financial resolutions.
Okay. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I'd like to make a motion that we take action on non-financial resolution Hartford Party number 1. Resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2020-2021 be amended to reflect that of $1 million of reallocated funds in the Hartford Police Department budget. That portion directed towards training shall include the following considerations: funding for additional screening of applicants to the Hartford Police to ensure that those with inherent racial bias and/or inadequate conflict resolution skills are not accepted, and funding for continuing police education, CPE, designed to provide each officer on an annual basis with a minimum amount of hours of cultural competency and mental health training, anti-escalation and conflict resolution training, and funding for career development, specifically to provide review courses designed to assist minority officers in the taking of all promotional exams, and funding for additional trauma counseling to all officers who may be involved in a traumatic event.
Second.
A motion has been made and properly second. Councilman LeBron?
Yes, Councilman Gale, based upon the other resolutions that was discussed and passed earlier, this seems very similar, or if not exact, to what was passed earlier, although not in detail in the language and the same appropriations. So I just feel like we've already done this already. So, but it's up to you. I'm not sure of the particularities or the differences in this item. So, you know, if you can explain that to me, Councilman Gale.
Councilman Gale?
Yeah, sure. There's no money attached to this, Councilman LeBron. So you're not addressing any money at all. And you're right that some of the concepts in here were addressed in the financial resolution that put money in for training for additional training for HPD. This just expands on it to incorporate, 4 buckets that I think are important, and just make the point that, what we are really looking for out of our police budget with the money that we put back into it and asked to be reallocated, that, we screen people that are coming in. So we look at the guys that are coming into the force to begin with, and we make sure that to the best of our ability, we add whatever layers we can.
Or women.
We're getting good candidates, right? And then once with guys that are in the force, we just got to make sure that these guys are getting ongoing training. And I think that was in the earlier resolution. I'm not sure the earlier resolution specifically addressed the concern that I've heard time and time again, that our minority police officers have a difficult time of rising in the ranks. And so, I want to just emphasize that, and I think this council should emphasize that we want to make sure that, our officers, when they're seeking promotions, that they're getting the additional counseling. And I reflect back on my own training. I went to law school. I had to take LSATs to get into law school. And then after I graduated, I had to take a bar exam. Let me tell you, I paid money to take courses to help me pass those things. Our officers should pay money, but I hope we can provide them with courses so they can take those courses and get those promotions. Anyway, sorry I went on so long.
Thank you.
Are there any other discussions? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bermudez,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman LeBron,
Yes.
Councilman Mitchum,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yep.
Councilman Sanchez,
Yes.
Councilman Surgeon,
Yes.
motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Majority Leader, you have the floor. Councilman Gale?
Madam President, I'm going to save the majority leader's voice. He's been doing such a splendid job this evening. Absolutely magnificent, really. That's an awful lot to read. I give him credit. But I'm going to withdraw the next two financial motions, non-financial resolutions, because I think they actually have already been dealt with. And I'm doing so to save the majority leader's vocal cords here. But I think that, and I think that's the end of the Hartford Party's resolutions for the evening.
And so I think
Thank you,
we
sir.
are all set with resolutions now. Is that correct, Mr. Majority Leader?
Madam President, that may be correct. There are no more resolutions from either party of the Court of Common Council.
Wonderful. I just want to take a moment to thank our public, for those of you who are watching, and to thank my colleagues, our town clerk, Hartford Public Access. It is 1:14 in the morning. Special thanks to David and Kevin, who assisted OMB this evening. Your job is greatly appreciated. And with no further business to conduct, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.